Hey man, let's not sugarcoat this. If you've ever been the guy who gave too much, waited too long, or held your breath hoping she'd finally choose you, you know what it feels like to be the placeholder. You're the emotional support, the late night therapist, the backup plan when her first choice flakes. And deep down, you feel it. You know when she's using your attention to patch up her wounds, boost her ego, or keep herself entertained until something better comes along. But you don't walk away, because you hope. You think if you just keep showing up, keep proving your loyalty, eventually she'll see your worth. But here's the truth, she won't. Not until you stop being the placeholder and start being the prize. Women don't fall in love with men they can predict. They fall in love with men who elevate them emotionally, mentally, and energetically. The placeholder plays it safe. He responds to her text instantly. He agrees with her opinions. He validates her insecurities before she even finishes speaking. He's too available, and in doing that, he makes himself emotionally disposable. The prize? He's different. He's emotionally centered, yet detached. He listens but doesn't worship. He offers value, not validation. And because of that, she can't stop thinking about him. She doesn't chase because he plays hard to get. She chases because he's hard to replace. You need to stop believing that being nice, supportive, and endlessly available will make her see your worth. It won't. Because women don't fall in love with comfort, they fall in love with challenge. Emotional challenge, psychological tension, the feeling of being a little unsure, not unsafe, but intrigued. That's what triggers obsession. That's what makes her lie awake, wondering what you're doing, who you're thinking about, and why you haven't texted back. It's not about playing games. It's about reversing the roles. You stop being the man who's always trying to earn her love and start being the man who expects it. A placeholder gives everything away for free. His time, his energy, his attention. He's constantly proving himself. He gives long replies to her one-word texts. He rearranges his plans to fit hers. He listens to her talk about other guys and nods like it doesn't rip his soul apart. And the worst part? She knows. She knows you're too afraid to walk away. That no matter how badly she treats you, you'll still be there. That's not love. That's emotional slavery. And if you want to escape that cycle, you have to realize the more freely you give yourself to someone who hasn't earned it, the less they value you. Becoming the prize isn't about becoming heartless. It's about becoming selective. You stop chasing women who don't reciprocate. You stop explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds. You stop proving your worth to women who treat you like a backup plan. Instead, you build your own world, a world so rich in purpose, presence, and peace that any woman who wants to be part of it has to qualify. And here's the paradox. The moment you stop needing her, she starts needing you. The energy flips. The dynamic shifts, because now you're no longer chasing her validation, you're standing in your power. The key to becoming her obsession lies in one simple concept: emotional contrast. You show her depth she's never felt. You become the man who can handle her intensity without getting reactive. The one who can be present without being clingy, who can disappear without guilt and return without apology. You're emotionally sovereign. You're not trying to control her. You're not trying to convince her. You're just being undeniably you. And in a world full of men who crumble for a crumb of attention, that kind of energy is unforgettable. It makes her question every man who came before you. Women obsess over men who own themselves, who don't fold under pressure, who know what they bring to the table, and won't let anyone sit there without mutual respect. That kind of man is rare. He doesn't entertain low-effort communication. He doesn't chase flaky behavior. He doesn't explain his silence. He lets his absence speak louder than his words. And because of that, he's always in her head. Not because he's cold, but because he's clear. She knows exactly where he stands. And that clarity, it's addicting. Especially in a world where most men are emotionally lost. To become the prize, you must first kill the version of you that needed to be chosen. That version of you that waited by the phone, that overanalyzed texts, that let her inconsistency slide because you didn't want to seem needy. That man was operating from fear, not power. He wanted love so badly, he accepted anything. But you're done with that. You don't chase love, you attract it. And if it doesn't come correct, you let it go. Because you know something most men never learn. Losing a woman is not the end. Losing yourself trying to keep her, that is. A man who is the prize doesn't fight for attention. He doesn't explain his worth. He walks into every room knowing exactly who he is. And that presence, it shakes people because it's rare, it's quiet, it's powerful. Women pick up on that energy instantly. It's in your eyes, your tone, your stillness. You don't rush to impress. You don't seek approval. You don't need to be the loudest in the room because your energy already speaks. And that's what she craves. Not a man who needs her validation, but a man who validates himself. You want to know the real reason she doesn't take you seriously? It's because you've made yourself too available, emotionally, mentally, and energetically. She never had to wonder about you, never had to earn your presence, never had to miss you, and as a result, she never had a chance to value you. Obsession starts in the void, in the silence, in the spaces where she expected you to be and you weren't. That's when she starts asking, what happened? That's when the fantasy begins. Not when you show up every time she calls, but when you don't. And that, my brother, is the first step from placeholder to prize. There's something magnetic about a woman who isn't afraid to walk away. Not as a threat, not as a tactic, but as a truth. She knows her peace is priceless. Her energy isn't for sale, and her presence isn't a reward for poor effort. That energy creates emotional gravity. It pulls people in, not because she's trying to be desired, but because she's rooted in self-selection. She doesn't cling, she doesn't convince, she doesn't beg anyone to stay. Instead, she lets the door remain open, and if someone walks out, she doesn't chase, she closes it, with grace, with finality, and that's what makes her unforgettable. You've got to realize, being someone's obsession isn't about turning yourself into a fantasy. It's about being so deeply real that it cuts through the noise. The placeholder usually tries to be what she thinks he wants. She adjusts, she silences her needs, she tolerates behavior that makes her stomach churn, just to seem chill, but the prize, she shows up as she is, fully expressed, fully honest. She doesn't sugarcoat, she doesn't water herself down, and because of that, she becomes a mirror. A man sees himself clearly in her presence, the good, the bad, the potential, and that reflection, it haunts him in the best way. To make the shift from placeholder to prize, you've got to master your emotional center. That means no more living on edge, waiting for a text, analyzing every silence like it's a sign. You must learn how to respond instead of react. You have to become the eye of the storm, the calm inside the chaos, because men are drawn to emotional certainty. They crave it. And when a woman is grounded, even in the face of confusion, she becomes his emotional anchor. He'll feel safer with you than with any woman who bends over backwards to please him. Because you're not offering him comfort, you're offering him stability. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be liked is the moment you become loved. Loved deeply. Loved seriously. Why? Because you stopped living in fear of rejection. You stopped performing. You stopped offering your soul in exchange for scraps. You began living for yourself. And when a man sees that, when he realizes that you're not hoping to be chosen, but choosing yourself daily, he realizes he can't treat you like an option, because you've made it clear that you are not someone who waits in line. Obsession is born out of uncertainty, not confusion, but challenge. You see, men bond through effort. They value what they build. If you give them everything up front, your heart, your mind, your loyalty, without requiring investment, they may enjoy it, but they won't value it. Not deeply, not long term, but when you pace the connection, when you let him earn it, when you don't hand your heart over on day 2, he leans in, he watches, he wonders, and suddenly you are the mystery. Not because you're hiding, but because you're selective. Becoming the prize isn't about punishing men, it's about protecting yourself. You're not withholding affection to manipulate. You're not avoiding vulnerability to stay in control. You're creating space so he can show up for you, not just take from you. That space isn't emptiness, it's value. It's the message that you're not available for inconsistency. It's the declaration that your presence must be earned. When you embody that, everything about you becomes magnetic. Your silence, your time, your standards. Because now, you're not chasing him to fill a void. You're allowing him the privilege of stepping into your life. And here's the beautiful irony. When you become the prize, you attract men who see you, who respect you, who don't flinch at your standards. They lean in. Not because you manipulated them, but because your clarity is rare. Most women are reactive, overgiving, anxious. You're grounded, you're secure. You're not here to win a man, you're here to build a life. And the right man, he won't want to escape that energy. He'll want to build inside it. If you want to become unforgettable, you have to stop being undeniable in the wrong way. Stop showing up for men who disappear. Stop texting paragraphs to people who send you memes. Stop over-explaining yourself to men who never made an effort to understand you. Every time you lower your standard, you lose a piece of your self-worth. And when you reclaim it, everything shifts. The way you speak, the way you walk, the way you expect to be treated. That shift, it doesn't just make you desirable, it makes you irreplaceable. You were never meant to be an option. You were never meant to be someone's emotional safety net, fallback plan, or temporary distraction. You were meant to be the standard, the dream, the reality that makes every other fantasy fade. But to become that, you have to let go of the belief that love is something to earn. You don't earn being chosen. You choose yourself so powerfully that no one can ignore you. And from that place, you stop begging for attention and start commanding it. The prize energy doesn't just speak in words, it radiates in silence. When you're the prize, you don't chase, argue, or convince. You let your boundaries speak. You let your absence sting. You walk away from disrespect, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. And that clarity cuts deep. A man may not realize what he had while you were around. He may have mistaken your consistency for convenience. But when you disappear, when you remove your emotional labor from the equation, he suddenly sees everything, because silence is the sharpest mirror. And your absence, that's the moment he finally hears the truth he kept ignoring. You want to become unforgettable? Make a man feel like your presence was a privilege, not a guarantee. Not through arrogance, not through manipulation, but through value, real value. The kind that builds him up without losing yourself. The kind that brings peace, not chaos. The kind that's rare in a world full of people pretending to care. And when he realizes you're not trying to compete with other women, when he sees that you are the category, not just part of it, that's when obsession takes root. Not because you begged to be seen, but because you stood so tall he couldn't look away. The shift from placeholder to prize is often quiet. It doesn't start with revenge or anger, it starts with clarity. You wake up one day and realize you've been giving more than you've been receiving, that your standards slipped, that your time became negotiable, and you decide no more. You stop responding to breadcrumbs, you stop pretending you're okay with almost. You let go of what's inconsistent, and in that letting go, you don't collapse, you rise, you find power in your solitude, you rebuild your self-worth piece by piece. And by the time they come back looking for the old version of you, she no longer exists. Here's the final truth. You don't become the prize by convincing others to see you differently. You become the prize by seeing yourself differently. You become the woman who walks in purpose, speaks with conviction, and refuses to settle for emotional scraps. You live like the love you want already exists within you, and because of that, you stop chasing and start attracting. The man who matches your depth will recognize your value, not because you screamed it, but because you embodied it. And when that happens, you'll realize that you were never the placeholder. You were just waiting for someone who could see the prize. So here's the mission: no more proving, no more begging, no more waiting for a text that never comes. From today, you move like the woman who knows she is the reward. You set your standards, protect your peace, and hold your heart sacred. And if someone doesn't meet you there, you don't lower the bar, you raise it. Because love isn't about being chosen, it's about being respected. It's about being seen, heard, valued. And if you don't start with that energy, you'll end up shrinking for someone who was never meant to hold your light. But not anymore. You're the prize. Walk like it, speak like it, love yourself like it, and watch what happens next. You stop being an option the moment you stop trying to be enough for someone who is not ready to receive. See, obsession isn't created through effort, it's created through presence, through boundaries, through self-respect so sharp that it naturally filters out anyone who comes with confusion. When you stand in the fullness of who you are, your mind, your femininity, your standards, you become rare. And in a world addicted to fast attention and low-effort situationships, rarity breeds obsession, not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying altogether and started simply being, and the right people are magnetized to that stillness. A woman who becomes the prize doesn't scream her value, she radiates it. She doesn't chase closure, she creates distance. She doesn't explain the silence, she lets the silence say everything. You want to move from placeholder to obsession? Learn to let people miss you. Learn to pull your energy back without warning. Learn to trust that if your presence wasn't appreciated, your absence will be felt. And if it's not, then you were never truly seen to begin with. And that's not your loss, it's your liberation. You're no longer trying to be kept, you're keeping your own peace. That's a level few reach, but once you do, everything changes. There is power in detachment that most people will never understand, because society has trained us to believe that love equals sacrifice. That to be worthy, we must bend, prove, beg. But obsession is not born in sacrifice, it's born in mystery, in spaciousness, in the energy of I choose you, but I don't need you. That's when they lean in, that's when they start to wonder. Because your energy no longer says, I'm here for you no matter what. It says, I'm here for me, and if you align with that, beautiful. If not, I'll still thrive. That vibe, it doesn't just attract, it haunts. The placeholder waits for someone to pick her. The prize picks herself. The placeholder watches their social media, hoping for a sign. The prize logs off and lives. The placeholder tolerates confusion. The prize demands clarity. You want the obsession energy? Start acting like your life is already complete. Like love would be a beautiful addition, but not a salvation. That's when you shift the dynamic. That's when people realize, if I don't get it together, I'm gonna lose this woman. And some will leave. But those who stay, they'll show up different. Because you're no longer auditioning, you're casting. So let this be your turning point. The day you stop asking why you weren't chosen. The day you stop waiting to be seen. From here forward, you are the vision. You are the standard. You are the prize. Not because you're flawless, but because you're aware of your worth. You no longer over-explain, over-give, or overstay. You choose yourself boldly. And in doing so, you call in only those who can meet you at your level. No more placeholders. No more confusion. You've upgraded your energy, and now the only people who make it through your gates are those who come correct. That's not ego. That's evolution.